Hello, my name is Ezra, otherwise known as E Soup. Um, Today I am coming to you from yet another location because I'm pet sitting right now. You might hear or possibly see a couple of dogs. Hi, Blue. Um, Hopefully they don't get into a barking fit while we're here. They do tend to do that. Hi, Psykeen. They like to bark when there's people across the street, and it doesn't matter that the blinds are drawn. But I hopefully they aren't too loud today. um, so I'm so glad that I could stream today. Because I just wanted to get a little bit more caught up after my internet issues caused me to get backed up with the streams. And I think we're still after doing today's stream, we will still be like one behind, which I'm okay with, but we won't be like two or more behind. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm also nervous because Wednesday's stream was so like perfect and like it went shockingly well, and I'm like I need things to not go downhill from here. Or honestly, certain things can go downhill, but I need Xia Ching Chung to not like regret what he did and then back off again. Because I'm afraid that he would totally do something like that. Um, Hi, Henry. Oh, Blue, you're gonna have to disappear for 30 to 45 minutes, but you're very excited for today. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah. What chapters are we reading? We are reading chapters 103 to 106. Um, which is nice. It's nice to it was fun to read one very long chapter, but it's nice to have separate chapters. There was something about last stream. It felt like such a marathon, even though it was exactly the same length of time as any other stream that I do. But I was just like, oh God, it went on for forever. Hi, Moonquill Aurora. Oh my God, what? BAB Readalong and no one told me? Yes, I'm so well, I'm glad that you just found me now. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been reading Case File for a little while now. Unfortunately, after the end of this volume, volume 4, I'm taking a break um from Case File. I do like different series and I alternate between them, but there's a lot to catch up on for you. uh oh yeah, so the title of today's chapter. So we are on page 233 for chapter 103, which is called Xie Ching Chung, You Have to Take Responsibility for Me. And Blue, I'm with you. The title better not be because Xie Ching Chung will try to weasel out of this. I sure hope not. So, the night passed. When He Yu woke up, it was already bright out. He blinked and saw Xie Ching Chung smoking next to the window, already dressed. The window was cracked open, and smoke drifted from between his fingertips as the morning sunlight spilled in. Xie Ching Chung's condition was quite poor. Last night had left him rather worse for wear. Then again, no one could endure He Yu's torment for an entire night and not end up worse for wear. Even though he was wearing a shirt and blazer, a faint smattering of hickeys was visible around the collar. His lips, too, were covered in obvious bite marks. Xie Ching Chung seemed extremely irritable. The ashtray was already piled high with a mountain of ashes. He Yu didn't know when he'd woken up. Xie Ching Chung was a much lighter sleeper than he was. Xie Ching Chung turned around when he heard rustling from the bed. You're awake? Hmm. On a morning like this, Any number of relatively gentle exchanges could have taken place between them, such as, "Are you all right?" If that dog starts up, such as, "Are you all right?" or "Do you want some breakfast?" Why do I feel like that's not going to be the thing? Even if neither of the above sufficed, they could at least say, "You should get dressed. It's cold out." But in the end, after spending some time silently looking at this boy he'd hooked up with far too many times, Xie Ching-chung chose the most cool-headed and ruthless thing to say. "Since you're awake, you should go." Henry, Moron, is that you? um, the dogs and pets thing, by the way, their names are Parker and Cookie. And Parker, of course, is the one who, well, yeah, I think I'd say between the two of them, Parker barks more. So I literally just call him Barker now. Blue, Xie Ching-chung, we just talked about this. He was dumbstruck. After getting so thoroughly intimate with him last night, He was genuinely shocked to hear such cold words from Xie Ching-chung today. He paused for a long while before finally saying, "Last night, it's true that you didn't force me into anything last night," said Xie Ching-chung. "I lost my head and couldn't control myself." It seemed as if he had spent a long time thinking about how he would face He when he woke. His answer was quick and ruthless to the point of being nearly robotic. "I'm not blaming you. You can leave." He sat up, looking like a little dragon that had tried its best to please its master, only to end up callously abandoned. His hair was still sleep mussed and sticking up in tufts. There was even a bit of dried blood on his forehead, and a cut on his lip where Xie Ching-chung had bitten him the night before. Xie Ching-chung glanced at him for only a moment before looking away. The light from beyond the window seemed to drain him of even the slightest hint of human vitality. It wouldn't be a stretch to call the events of the previous night insane. It was like they'd spent New Year's Eve possessed. The things they'd done had been unimaginable to them both. When they remembered the details now, it was all bewildering. It was as though they'd fallen into a fantastic illusion that night. Like two people within a dream, neither of them seemed fully real. Perhaps it had exhausted too much of his passion. That crazed, unexpected tryst seemed like it had sapped the last of the vigor from Xie Ching-chung's body. It was obvious that Xie Ching-chung regretted it deeply. Yu gazed at him silently. He'd worked so hard all night. It would be a lie to say that this dragon pup didn't feel hurt at being abandoned so abruptly. Still, his self-respect didn't allow him to show it. In the end, voice soft but expression equally flat, Yu said, "You don't need to send me off in such a hurry. Even a rent boy delivered to your door wouldn't deserve such treatment." "What's a rent boy?" Xie Ching-chung asked. "A male prostitute." "But you're not a male prostitute," replied Xie Ching-chung. Yu looked at him stiffly, but didn't utter a word. Xie Ching-chung sighed, putting down the phone he'd been glancing at intermittently as he smoked, and walked to the bedside. Yu saw what he'd been looking at in his periphery: jellyfish videos. He used to find it funny. He didn't know why Xie Ching-chung kept watching those things. Only now did he realize that the videos functioned as a type of mood stabilizer for Xie Ching-chung, like a reflex developed over time. Those creatures that lived on gently without brains or hearts had been Xie Ching-chung's only balm throughout his painful past. He knew that the reason Xie Ching-chung had been standing there smoking incessantly and watching those videos was because he felt so uncomfortable, because his mental state was a complete wreck. Even if Xie Ching-chung had slept with him voluntarily, even if Xie Ching-chung had done it because he'd been irritated, and then enticed by him. Yu knew that Xie Ching had regretted it afterward. And it wasn't the usual type of regret. Oh, there's art. Oh, we're not looking at that yet. Just as he expected, the first words out of Xie Ching's mouth when he approached him were, Yu, we shouldn't continue like this. Yu said nothing, just sat there in silence. His back still bore the marks where Xie Ching had clawed at him in desperation the night before. Yet now, the same man who'd clawed at him like that had actually just said, we shouldn't continue like this. Yu was utterly incensed and hurt. He lifted his head to stare Xie Ching in the eye, a silent interrogation. In response, Xie Ching remained quiet for a while before turning to take a first aid kit from a drawer. Gauze, iodine, and cotton swabs in hand, he dabbed carefully at the wound on Yu's forehead, cleaning and dressing it in silence. You shouldn't go out with blood on your face on New Year's. Yu didn't make a sound as Xie Ching lightly cleaned the area around the wound with an iodine-soaked cotton swab. He just let Xie Ching give him this little bit of aftercare. Not them finally doing aftercare. Blue, the fact that they need a first aid kit, meat bun your kinks. Well, I was going to say most of that is because of Xie Ching throwing a lamp at Yu before anything even really happened. It's all part of the kink, though. Yu didn't make a sound as Xie Ching... Nope, I read that already. Xie Ching wound a length of pure white gauze around Yu's head. His fingers paused over the row of adhesive bandages, before finally selecting a kid's cartoon dinosaur band-aid and applying it to Yu's forehead. Okay, you can go. Silence. Xie Shui will probably be back soon. More silence. It's really not right for us to do this. Yesterday, I acted on impulse. Even more silence. Yu. Alright, now we're going to look at the art. You know, even though Xie Ching even though he's doing the thing that he's doing, which we all kind of thought that he might do, there's, like, a sweetness. Like, he's still trying to take care of Yu, and there's, like, a sweetness there that I don't think was there before. So I'm gonna take the little victories. Sitting on the bed with his chin lifted and a few strands of hair spilling over the gauze, Yu finally spoke. Xie Ching, I'm so thirsty and tired. I want some water. Xie Ching sighed. After all, he was the one who'd taken the initiative to express his desires. He still felt the need to offer something in exchange for what he'd received, even if he'd ultimately gotten the shorter end of the stick. After all, he was a grown man. It was a mindset he couldn't shake. He went to pour Yu some water. Seeing that Xie Ching was actually willing to get him water, Yu's mood seemed to improve somewhat. As Xie Ching busied himself in front of the tea table, Yu craned his neck and peered around, raising his hand to touch his forehead and the cartoon band-aid from time to time. But as soon as he saw the cup of water that Xie Ching brought over, his face fell again. His expression became even gloomier than before. Here. Drink. Xie Ching held out the disposable cup. Yu stared at the paper cup, the same kind that Li Ruoqiu had used. He pursed his lips tightly and turned his face away, refusing to take a sip. Xie Ching had no idea where he'd gone wrong this time, but this concubine seemed displeased. Drink, he said, frowning. Yu glared at him before suddenly lifting a hand to smack the cup to the ground, spilling water all over the floor. "What are you doing?" Xie Qingcheng exclaimed. "What do you think I'm doing?" Yu kept glaring at him. "How am I supposed to know what's the matter with you? Why can't you understand me?" Yes, Henry, you are correct. She loves to hurt us. Meat Bun loves to hurt us. Yep, yeah, Moonquill, the trauma is coming back. Xie Qingcheng was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea what he had done to provoke such a crazy outburst. Even Li Ruoqiu had said, "Thank you, Goga," when he gave her water. But He Yu had the nerve to overturn the cup he passed him, after he'd fucked him all night long. "I'm telling you, He Yu, if you're done making a scene, you should go home. Just act as if nothing happened last night. I've already told you several times that it was a momentary lapse of judgment. With the kind of momentary lapse of judgment you had last night, if I were a woman, I would have gotten pregnant." He Yu's righteous indignation just gave Xie Qingcheng a splitting headache. Surely, given the things they'd done yesterday, He Yu wouldn't have ended up the pregnant one. Did he have no sense of shame? On second thought, though, He Yu saying, "I would have gotten pregnant," was a vast improvement over the things he kept saying in bed last night, like, "I want you to have my baby," and, "Guh, I want to knock you up." It was also far easier for Xie Qingcheng to accept than if he'd said, "You would have gotten pregnant." Gritting his teeth, Xie Qingcheng said, "But you're not a woman. And if you were a woman, I wouldn't have lost control with you like that." That's the... That's... That's interesting. Okay. Why not? Are you gay? Xie Qingcheng's face turned ashen. "I'm not." "Why then?" Xie Qingcheng didn't want to keep bickering with him. He glanced at the clock on the wall. "I can't explain it to you. But take my word for it, I just wouldn't. Let's stop talking about this. It's getting late and you should leave. Don't let Xie Shui run into you on her way back." Now, I will say, he's right about one thing. He doesn't want Xie Shui to see that Xie Qingcheng was there overnight. That's, I mean, yeah, kind of on... With that in mind, it totally makes sense to be like, "Oh, you need to leave right now." Xie Qingcheng, as a man, don't you need to take some responsibility? "Like hell I need to take responsibility for you," Xie Qingcheng shouted, losing his temper. "Listen to me, He Yu. There shouldn't be anything between us. Everything should be simple and clean." I'm gonna get that song stuck in my head now. "Think of last night as the end of this. There's not going to be a next time. Now you need to get up. Get..." His sentence was interrupted when He Yu suddenly reached out and hugged him around the waist. "I don't want to. I don't want to go. I'll be all alone at home. I want to stay here. When Li Ruoqiu had nowhere to go, you took her in. So why can't you do the same for me?" He pressed his forehead to Xie Qingcheng's waist, rubbing softly against his body. His eyes were filled with a stubborn madness, along with a hint of turbulence and bewilderment. As He Yu continued rubbing against Xie Qingcheng, it felt like a vessel within his heart was filled to the point of overflowing with an unfamiliar emotion, one he couldn't name. His chest felt painfully swollen, and to quell that ache, his heart needed medicine. Instinctively, he sensed that he could obtain that very medicine from Xie Qingcheng's body, that Xie Qingcheng's essence could slowly soothe his anguish. He knew that would save his heart from being mangled by a formless knife. He closed his eyes and held Xie Qingcheng for a long while before he suddenly realized that the man in his arms was trembling slightly. Touching him again, He was surprised to find his body temperature rather high. Hu Yu jerked his head up from where it was pressed against Xie Cheng's waist. Guh, you have a fever. Why do you feel so hot? I'm fine. Xie Cheng grabbed him by the wrist and tried to pull his hand away. But Hu Yu refused to let go. He stared at Xie Cheng for a while. Are you sure that drug is still working on you? You're always getting sick. It seems like every few days you... Oh no. Oh no, that's something I had forgotten about is the wrong word. But I have not thought about this medicine in just a little while. I mean, especially considering what happened last time. And now I'm worried. Could Xie Cheng be lying about taking the medicine? Like, what if he started taking it and then he was like, what if he stopped taking it for some reason? I'm sure he has some sort of, like, self-destructive logic about it in his head for why he would do that. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Okay. No ordinary person would be able to bear what you did to me last night, Xie Cheng said. Let go of me. Hu Yu's frown only deepened. And your eyesight's getting worse, too. Xie Cheng didn't want to hear things like this from him. Even medical professionals could try to conceal their illnesses and avoid treatment. Facing a difficult diagnosis was difficult for anyone. Hu Yu's interrogation had poked Xie Cheng right in his sore spot. Using significantly more strength than before, Xie Cheng abruptly shoved him away. Hu Yu, that drug can prolong my lifespan, but it can't keep me in peak physical condition forever. I'll always take care of myself. As long as you don't provoke me, that is. Hu Yu wordlessly shifted his gaze from Xie Cheng's face to the ashtray on the windowsill. It was overflowing with a massive pile of ash. He stared at Xie Cheng, not knowing where this burst of intense anger had come from. Is this what you call taking care of yourself? If you hadn't aggravated me, I wouldn't have smoked so much today. Hu Yu didn't respond. You should leave. Silence. I want to have some time to myself. Oh. Y'all, give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Hi, I'm back. Sorry about that. They have a landline here, and I'm like 99% sure that was just a spam call, but to make sure. Um, okay. Where was I? I was just in the midst of having concerned thoughts about Xie Ching, but what else is new? I want to have some time to myself. Those faint stirrings in He Yu's heart seemed to suddenly grow into a huge, ferocious beast, with sharp claws that forcefully tore at his organs. No way. I'm taking you to the hospital, He Yu stubbornly insisted. I don't want to go to the fucking hospital. Not again. How many times a year did he need to go to the hospital? And all because he had been fucked by a boy until his body couldn't take it anymore. You're sick, He Yu insisted. You have to go to the hospital. But He Yu felt a twinge of uncertainty. He was a rich young master, after all. Is the hospital open on New Year's Day? Xie Ching looked at him. He clearly wanted to take action, yet was at a complete loss for what to do. Xie Ching suddenly felt very tired. When all was said and done, He Yu was still a kid. Xie Ching heaved a low sigh. How about this, He Yu? Just go home. I'll treat myself here. Meeting Hoyu's eyes, he lied. Besides, the hospital isn't even open today. If that's the case, I'll contact my personal physician for you. You want to shout about us from the rooftops, too? Hoyu stopped in his tracks. Xie Qingcheng took his phone, turned it off, and handed it back to him. Please, if you genuinely consider me your kin, don't do this. Let me save some face. He wasn't arguing anymore, but that only made him seem even more distant, as if he might fade away before Hoyu's eyes in the very next moment. Even his soul seemed faint. To his astonishment, Hoyu found that he was starting to panic. Go home, please, Xie Qingcheng said. But Hoyu paled. You shouldn't. What shouldn't I do? I'm an adult. I'm 13. Every time I speak, Parker is like, it's time to bark now. I'm an adult. I'm 13 years older than you. Don't you think I know how to look after myself? I don't need you to teach me anything. I think you do, actually. I think you need him to teach you emotional availability or something. Hoyu looked at Xie Qingcheng's pallid, weak, indifferent, formidable, distant face. For a fleeting moment, the monster in his chest seemed to gnaw at him so hard he could hardly breathe. What was wrong with him? What was this? As for what happened yesterday, just let it go. Why, Xie Qingcheng? Why? Why can't we continue like this? We just can't. But why? Xie Qingcheng stilled for a beat. Because I don't love you, and you don't love me either, Hoyu. So it would be a mistake. Didn't you say that a man should take responsibility? Then let me tell you, taking responsibility means that in the future, we should only do these kinds of things with the person we love. Otherwise, we're just tormenting each other. Suddenly, everything went still. The word love rang through Hoyu's ears. The great beast in his chest swallowed his heart. His heartbeat came to an abrupt stop. His ears emptied of sound, unable to hear a thing. The final drop of blood drained from his face. He jerked his head up, staring unwaveringly into Xie Qingcheng's eyes. He was on the verge of understanding something as he touched upon some sort of truth. This is actually so interesting because, like, it's devastating, but, like, this is the moment, seemingly, that Hoyu's feelings are, like, clicking for him. And if Xie Qingcheng hadn't said that, there would have probably been a longer time before things, like, started to click. So at least he's getting it. Like, it's so it's interesting too because, like, it's like they haven't said, neither of them of course have said I love you. So we're getting this, like, I don't love you. But the way it's, like, set up, it's, like, such a perfect setup for, like, when we finally do get to the point that they say I love you, that's going to be, like, just, like, impossibly huge. I don't know, maybe there's like a dark, twisted part of me that just, like, finds this exciting instead of being sad about it, and I know that's, like, the wrong response, but I'm just thinking of, like, what it's setting up. He was on the verge of understanding something as he touched upon some sort of truth. Love. I don't love you, and you don't love me either. In the future, we should only do these kinds of things with the person we love. Otherwise, we're just tormenting each other. Distant mountains appeared to shudder, and the whole earth seemed to shake, as Hoyu's heart, swallowed by that monstrous beast, set off a staggering earthquake. with his shattered, sickly heart as the epicenter. Great tremors tore through his entire body, until even his fingertips sought escape from the calamity. Love? Roused from its slumber, the deity in his heart had solemnly called the name of that terrible beast. That name was like a binding hoop that instantly pulled tight around its huge, vicious body. Love. Again and again, the name spiraled through the landscape of his heart, filled with beacon fires and smoke signals. It circled around the ears of that strange beast, which narrowed its eyes in pleasure as it emitted a deep and inexorable rumble of agreement. Yes, it said. That's my name. That's the kind of emotion I am. Do you understand now? As your world is falling apart, you have finally called me by the right name. Have you found the key to taming me? The great beast slowly spit out his still frozen heart. A few seconds later, that blood-soaked heart began to beat again. Again and again, faster and faster, more urgently and more anxiously, frantically, madly, transforming into the drumbeat that made his eyes tremble until they reddened. Hoyu's face paled to an unsightly degree. As Xie Qingcheng scolded him, his own routines and instinctive behaviors, the motivations he'd never interrogated, suddenly crystallized before him. All the things he had done, full of deep ardor, like a supple thread winding ceaselessly around his heart, impossible to forsake. Could it be? Could it be because he loved him? Did he love Xie Qingcheng? Oh my god. Oh my god, you're kidding me. Well, that's the end of the chapter. We are on page 247 for chapter 104. Its name was Love. Yeah, wow. That was very well written. And yeah, no, that was cool. I like, I'm trying to word this. I like the particular way that Meat Bun chose to, like, have Hoyu have that realization. Like, this image of it being a beast, like a beast in his heart, and he's like trying to figure out what the beast is. Because he's always felt beastly, and because of his illness, he's always felt like his emotions are, like, out of control. So, like, of course he would kind of think of this feeling as a beast, but it's like he doesn't really know what it is. It's like it's mysterious, and finally he's like, oh, that's it. Hoyu was a very smart person, but there were times when he was extremely obstinate and stuck in his ways. For example, he had once been positive that he was a straight man. He'd been so convinced of that answer to the question of his sexuality that he dismissed Xie Qingcheng as nothing more than a minor misstep along the way. It was only now that he was coming to realize that perhaps Xie Qingcheng had been the right answer all along. He Yu was the one who had been mistaken. This astonishing revelation had He Yu frozen in shock where he sat on the bed. Yeah, I know, Henry, exactly. This is like the amount of character development happening right now. Because I feel like I would have thought, like, Yu thinking that he's straight is like the last thing that he holds on to, that he would somehow find a way to justify it like everything else. Oh, yeah, I love Xie Qingzheng, but I'm still straight because something. And it's like, I guess not. I guess he's figuring everything out at once. Xie Qingcheng threw his clothes at him. Get up already. Vacant-eyed and completely spaced out, He Yu obediently dressed himself. Once he'd slipped back into his clothes, he got up from the bed and stared blankly at Xie Ching-chung for so long that the older man started feeling uncomfortable. Finally, He murmured, "Chiege, can I stay for a little bit longer?" Oblivious to the fact that Yu's heart had just been flipped upside down, Xie Ching-chung took the boy's sincerely flustered entreaty as yet more stubbornness. "No," he replied. Xie Ching-chung. Xie Ching-chung had absolutely no desire to acknowledge or even think about the ludicrous things they'd done the previous night. He was determined to shoo him out, and persisted in doing so until his face began to pale and his lips turned ashen. "If you really want me to rest up properly, Yu, then you'll leave. You'll just be torturing me if you stay here. You should go." But Yu had no idea what he wanted to say either. In the midst of his panic, he tried to grab Xie Ching-chung by the hand, as if that would somehow make it easier for him to think this through. However, the moment he touched Xie Ching-chung's burning hot fingers, Xie Ching-chung reflexively pulled them away. Yu blinked, taken by surprise. Xie Ching-chung was struggling to endure his physical discomfort and fever. When he looked at Yu, his peach blossom eyes were tinged with sickly redness. He marched Yu to the door and pushed him outside. "We can't do these kinds of things together anymore. Go home and calm down." "But Xie Ching-chung, I want to. Let me calm down too." Oh boy. Xie Ching-chung was about to close the door when Auntie Li just so happened to walk by. "Ah, Xiao Xie, you and your friend are up so early on New Year's Day." Xie Ching-chung instinctively tugged at his collar, but the love bites on his neck were still quite obvious, with several faint red spots peeking out. When he saw Li Miaoqing approach, Yu yanked off his crooked camel-colored scarf and looped it around Xie Ching-chung's neck, wrapping the skin above his collar in soft cashmere. Quick thinking. Xie Ching-chung didn't understand what was going on, but just as he was about to struggle free, Yu grabbed the scarf and pulled him closer. "Don't take it off. I'm covering your hickeys for you." Only then did Xie Ching-chung realize how far up the marks extended. Caught between annoyance and exasperation, he had no choice but to leave Yu's scarf around his neck and stop moving. Li Miaoqing stopped in front of them, her eyes sleepy. "Aya, did you two get into a fight last night? We all heard some smashing noises." "We didn't," Xie Ching-chung said. "Auntie Li, we were watching a movie," Yu explained. "A war film." "Oh." Li Miaoqing didn't think any more of it. She yawned. "You were up early today," said Xie Ching-chung. "Yeah, I don't know what happened last night, but..." Oh, Lord, okay. "But I can read. But I kept dreaming your house was getting renovated. There were all these banging and thumping sounds. They were so realistic. So I woke up early." Neither Yu nor Xie Ching-chung knew what to say to that. "Since you're awake, why don't you both come over to my place for breakfast?" she asked, oblivious to the reason behind their silence. "We'll pass," Xie Ching-chung said. He felt extremely uncomfortable. He'd only had time for a brief shower this morning, and there were certain things that he hadn't managed to clean out completely. Also, his fever was still sending flashes of heat through his body. He just wanted to make Yu leave so that he could wash up properly, take some medicine, and take a nap while Xie Shui was still out with Li Ruoqiu. "He has some urgent matters to take care of," he said to Auntie Li. "He needs to go home." "Aya, Xiao He is leaving already?" Auntie Li exclaimed. "Henry, are you two, contractors?" Yu didn't want to leave, but... That's right. That's right," Xie Ching-chung insisted. Seeing that Yu was still rooted to the spot, stiff and dazed with no intention of leaving, he gritted out, "I'm giving him a ride." With that, he grabbed his car keys and pulled Yu out of Moyu Alley. After stuffing Yu into his car, he sat down in the driver's seat. Yu had somewhat regained his wits by now. He looked at Xie Chingcheng with faintly red eyes. "Chiega, you don't feel well. Why don't I drive? Stop babbling." Xie Chingcheng fastened his seatbelt, started the engine, and silently drove Yu to a nearby automated parking lot. It was difficult to find parking in the old city district, so Yu usually parked here if he needed to stay for a while. "Get out," Xie Chingcheng said. Before, Yu definitely wouldn't have taken Xie Chingcheng's feelings into account. He would have stayed when he wanted to stay, and left when he wanted to leave. His own emotions had always been the most important. But now he felt apprehensive. Character development. His head buzzed with static. At last, under Xie Chingcheng's weary yet unyielding gaze, he got out of the car. "Hold on," Xie Chingcheng said. Yu's eyes brightened, as though lit by a beacon of hope. "Here's your scarf." The light in Yu's eyes went out again. He opened his mouth to speak. But before he even managed to get a word out, Xie Chingcheng had tossed the scarf at him and closed the window. Then he slammed on the gas, enduring the discomfort of his stomach, his waist, his entire body, and turned the car around to go home, leaving Yu standing there by himself in a daze. Yeah, Henry, that's a good question. This, in Volume 4, makes me scared. If he knows he's in love this early, what else does Meat Bun have in store? Well, I've seen some of those book covers, so a lot apparently, but I am wondering. Because this does feel like a lot of the, like, last stream was unexpected, and this is super unexpected. And it's felt unexpected because, like, I would think this is a volume 5 or 6 thing. I don't know. If I had to guess. And so it's like, what do we do now? I guess we have to get deeper into the murder mystery and the organization and all that stuff. And then Xie Chingcheng has to figure out his feelings, which is interesting because, no, that makes sense. Like, Xie Chingcheng is going to be the one who's going to take longer because he's the one who's, like, suppressed himself more fully. Like, no matter how stubborn Yu is, he kind of lets himself feel things. So, was Yu stayed there for a long time before he managed to find his car and get in. It was a gorgeous, extremely comfortable Lamborghini. But sitting inside didn't feel as real as sitting in Xie Chingcheng's passenger seat. Moonquill, you said Meat Bun has an entire theme park planned. Hold on tight. Yep. Also, I would go to the Meat Bun theme park. That would probably be terrifying, but I would absolutely go. Hi, Blue. I'm so sorry for you today, Blue. He had absolutely no desire to go home. He didn't want to go back to that tomb. Instead, he began driving in dazed circles around and around the old city district. He kept on thinking about the things that had happened, both the night before and in the past, thinking about the terrible beast in his chest whose name he'd just learned, thinking about the emotion that even he struggled to digest immediately, that love. His heart was a complete mess. There weren't very many people on the road on New Year's Day. Yu kept driving until day turned to night. He finally pulled over on a deserted side street and turned on the stereo. Oh my god, of course. Of course, they have a theme song now. Okay, they have a theme song now. With My Heart Will Go On playing in the background. He lay back in his seat with his eyes open. As he thought about everything that had happened, the past engulfed his heart like a rising tide. Did he really care for Xie Ching-chung? Since when? Did he love him? Where did that love even come from? Did he love him for his body? Was it an attraction born of kinship? Or had it happened before that? Had he unwittingly fallen in love with the whole of Xie Ching-chung's being? Exhausted, perplexed, and agitated, Yu tried to carefully mull over everything that had happened. He thought of Xie Ching-chung last night, pinning him onto the bed as he took the initiative to kiss him. He thought of Xie Ching-chung in the flooded studio, floating on his back and telling him the whole truth as the music played on. He thought of Xie Ching-chung beneath that flowering tree, acting in a movie scene for his only chance to put on the police uniform he could never wear for real. He thought of Xie Ching-chung in the cave on Neverland, lighting a cigarette as he said indifferently that he could no longer remember what his dream had been. Yu thought of the obstinate look in Xie Ching-chung's eyes at the club, still holding on, still staring at him so stubbornly even after the drugged wine had taken effect. Yu, come back with me, he'd said. I'll tell you everything you want to know. But on that day, on the night he and Xie Ching-chung first established their debt of love and hatred, the night Xie Ching-chung had tried desperately to bring him back, he'd poured a glass of red wine all over Xie Ching-chung's snow-white lapels just to debase him. Yu remembered how he had set down the glass and, from across the wide, dimly lit table, used a pinky promise to trick him, stroking his face with a small smile. And then he'd said, "You deceived me so thoroughly. Did you think I'd still believe you?" Yes, Xie Ching-chung had deceived him and abandoned him. But he hadn't known that back then, when Xie Ching-chung's health was already so ruined he couldn't bear the weight of his own emotions. He'd still given his final beacon of light to Yu. Yu remembered how Xie Ching-chung had always told him to be calm, to subdue his own inner demons, to rely on himself to walk out of the shadows in his heart. That was the only gift, the final gift, that Xie Ching-chung could give to his kin, as psychological Ebola's patient zero. It was he who told Yu that the mentally ill shouldn't be treated any differently. It was he who told Yu to find the bridge that would connect him once more to society. It was he who told Yu, "Little devil, you must be strong." Because of Xie Ching-chung's words, Yu strove to become someone who could fit in with normal people. He'd even wanted to share this principle with other patients in the depths of suffering. It was all because Xie Ching-chung had told him that the lives of the mentally ill were no different from those of ordinary people. The He family ran a mental health facility as a very minor part of their larger corporation. He Jiwei had never bothered with it. He allowed Yu to run it as a learning experience. Yu had turned part of the facility into a charity to maximize its impact on all the patients with psychological issues who came to seek help. Did we know? We didn't know that, did we? Ugh, are you serious right now, Meat Bun? It was all because Xie Ching-chung had once said that cages were for criminals, not for patients who had already suffered so much pain. After Xie Ching-chung left, he tottered on the verge of collapse, but then he'd staggered to his feet, striving to reintegrate into normal society. He even stopped self-harming for a long time, working hard to control his emotions. He abandoned the box cutter he'd once pressed to his wrist to the passage of time. It was all because Xie Qingcheng had once asked him, "Little devil, doesn't it hurt? Doesn't it hurt?" Was it back then that the seed of admiration had been planted? Did he love more than just Xie Qingcheng's body? Had he fallen in love with the man's soul as well? Oh my god. Okay. Alright. Y'all are not prepared. I was not prepared. I was like, there's art on the next page. I can see there's art on the next page. I don't think I've ever seen Seven Seas do this. Like, ever. Tell me if you've seen it, if I'm wrong. It's a 2-page art. Like a 2-page black and white art. Like, hold on. I need you to see this. There's so much detail. I am going to I'm gonna try and see later if I can drop that in the Discord, because like I have the ebook version, so I can like take a screenshot of that and put it in. You might be able to like see it better. Because oh my god. They only did it once before at the end of Yuwu. Oh, how could I forget? Okay, at the end of the Yuwu, they did a 2-page black and white art. I'm gonna have to look that one up again. I will say, this artist, they do kind of have like the same face thing. Their art isn't my favorite, but when they do conceptual stuff, that's when they're really, really strong. And this is just like the perfect thing for them. It's like just this big, crazy, like conceptual piece. Oh my god, okay. I don't know if I'm gonna recover from that. What was his soul like? He'd been shown many times over the years, but never fully taken it in. He Yu's breathing was ragged. The words he tattooed onto his wrist to imitate Xie Qingcheng had become a black ribbon, guiding him inexorably forward. He followed the ribbon onward. Okay, right. So the thing in the... Yes, the ribbon in the art. It's like a little path. The ribbon fluttered. The fog dissipated. And what lay before him was Xie Qingcheng's silhouette. In that moment, He Yu saw him with incomparable clarity. Here lies one whose name was writ in water. The youth finally tried to empathize with the older man, and in the end, he found Xie Qingcheng's silhouette in his own heart. The person he saw was someone who had given him faith, given him support, given him all his blood-soaked experience, as one who had triumphed over psychological Ebola. He saw that person suppress his own pain and say calmly, ruthlessly, and decisively, "How could the life of a mentally ill person be more important than the life of a doctor?" Was that truly a moment of betrayal? No, it wasn't. He Yu knew now that it was truly the most bone-piercing despair, the deepest remorse. He finally understood that the Xie Qingcheng he had hated so deeply in the club had actually been asking Qin Xian, "Lao She, how could my life be more important than yours?" He could almost hear Xie Qingcheng say, "I'm just a patient. I'm just a reassembled corpse dredged up from a pool of blood. You're the nation's foremost scholar and a brilliant doctor. You have a wife and a daughter. You still have manuscripts to finish and dreams to realize. Why did you tell those people that if something happened, they should come to you first? Why did you shield me behind you?" Blue. Oh boy, I just realized that He Yu was slow. How is he just now realizing this? Yeah, like we got there. Um, you just took a little longer. I guess he was fixated on just like being lied to and on that whole scenario being fake, and he didn't actually think about like the further meaning behind what Xie Ching said. Suddenly, Yu understood everything. He could see everything. From a third person perspective, he watched the old man gaze at Xie Ching, wordlessly beaming in silent acceptance, just as he did whenever Xie Ching expressed doubt or confusion. Yu remembered Xie Ching telling him, that night in the flooded studio, that the old man's heart had grown softer and his temper had become milder as he aged. If Yi Beihai's knife hadn't pierced his flesh, he would have lived out his days in peace with his wife. And when Xie Ching went to call on him, he could have brought a bouquet of lilies to tuck into the wicker basket in his study. But in the end, Xie Ching didn't even have the right to leave a bouquet of flowers on the old man's grave. Xie Ching would be chased away by his Shidi and Shimei for merely gazing at his tombstone from afar. But Yu knew that he never regretted it. That was Xie Ching's soul. When he robotically spat out those cutting words, he had been pushing himself into the abyss. He loathed the so-called disadvantaged people who exploited doctors and wanted them to die for the sake of their patients, and he worried that his naive, impetuous, overly kind Shidi and Shimei didn't know how to protect themselves. Or rather, that they wouldn't dare to say, aren't doctors worthy of protection? Aren't doctors' lives also lives? Aren't doctors people too? We have families, we have wives and children. We're daughters and mothers. Please don't praise us while forcing us to spill our own blood to be deserving of that praise. He believed things shouldn't be that way. Therefore, he sacrificed his own reputation and laid his own career to rest. That was Xie Ching's soul. In the same way Qin Xian had protected him, he paid the price to protect the weary, overwhelmed, dedicated idealists in white coats behind him. All along, He Yu had thought that Xie Ching loathed mentally ill patients, that he feared them, but the person he loathed was really himself. He Yu had always respected the mentally ill and sought to protect those who were tormented in both body and mind, but he had no idea that Xie Ching was also one of them, that he was the one most like him. That was Xie Ching's soul. Did he love him? Did he love him? That kind of person, that kind of heart, that kind of soul. The great beast in his chest that now had a name was frantically circling his heart. As though seeing through the eyes of that strange creature, he looked down and spotted the man standing in the hospital, facing a crowd of scowling faces and pointing fingers. He saw that man meet the eyes of Qin Xian's distant, translucent soul, surrounded by ancient floating jellyfish that had swum from Brooklyn all those years ago to the present day. Then Qin Xian turned around. Putting his hands in the pockets of his long white coat, he slowly walked away. His figure's aged stoop straightened into the easy confidence he had held in the prime of his life, before finally returning to the sprightly appearance of his youth, a young student studying abroad in America, carrying a thick pile of books under his arm, and smiling as he gazed up at a sky that was brimming with jellyfish. Finally, he turned his head to grin brightly at Xie Ching, who couldn't catch up to him. Xiaoxie, I don't need a reason to save you, because I know that you'll do the things I want to do. As long as you're alive, I'll live on through you. You are my confidant, my son, my disciple, my comrade in arms. You are the hope I'm leaving behind. I've gotten old, and the old will always pass on. It's only right that aged leaves fall to protect new shoots. My own mentors also sacrificed their time and energy to help me come into my own. The Brooklyn sunset illuminated the young man's figure. Clad in a European-style suit, he beamed and waved at Xie Qingcheng, before fading into the brilliant golden light. He Yu looked on as Xie Qingcheng came to a standstill. His footfalls halted as he stopped chasing after him. Dr. Xie watched Dr. Qin disappear bit by bit, like he was gazing upon the ice-cold bodies of his parents on that rainy night. The sunlight was like an arrow, a rainstorm, a firework, like the brilliance this man had cast over the course of his life, illuminating his face in that moment. His expression abruptly crumbled and shattered as he stood frozen in place for an age. He Yu knew that Xie Qingcheng couldn't go to Brooklyn. He had to go back. He had to turn back. And so, lifting his hand, Dr. Xie silently and ruthlessly put on a mask labeled traitor, coward, and deserter, and turned around. He faced the others once more with his sorrowful, unyielding, determined eyes gazing out from behind the mask. He walked back, heading away from Qin Xian and into an endless night, allowing raging flames to singe his body and sharp blades to pierce his heart. He took one step after another with unparalleled resolve. He Yu watched. Through the eyes of that strange beast, he finally saw everything so clearly. Xie Qingcheng's every step seemed to batter against his heart. This was the real Xie Qingcheng, the Xie Qingcheng that He Yu knew. It was love. He loved him. He loved this person's body and heart. He loved this person's scars and lacerated flesh. He loved his sickly, worn-down body. He loved him. He loved him. That terrible beast let him see everything so clearly, everything about himself, everything about Xie Qingcheng. Thus, as the long night ended, before daybreak arrived, the youth finally faced the frail, graceful light of dawn, and hoarsely mumbled a belated realization. Xie Qingcheng, doesn't it hurt? Meat bun, you didn't just turn around that phrase and have He Yu use it. No. Xie Qingcheng, doesn't it hurt? All these years, haven't you been in pain? Haven't you been lonely? That is the end of the chapter. Well, well, we had a good time last time. Today has been a doozy. But it's been a very well-written doozy. Oh my goodness. What chapter is this? 104? This is going down as one of those notorious chapters in this book, I guess. So, I'm gonna take a 10-minute break, and when I come back, we will be on page 261 for chapter 105, which is called The Words I Couldn't Say. Lovely chapter titles today. Yeah. So oh my god, what? Not the Unhold Trinity. That's incredible. All right. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Hi, hello, I have returned. Arr, I was gonna say I'm ready for more emotional devastation, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I will ever be ready, so, Also, I love what you're saying, Blue. Hoyu is on his way to becoming a 2000s toxic yaoi MC. He doesn't like men, he likes Chia Ching Chung specifically. It's all according to Keikaku. Yeah. Um, but Henry, I think you're correct. He is already that person. He just doesn't realize it himself. Um, so I wonder what else Meat Bun can throw at us today. It really has been a week of Meat Bun. A mostly happy one, but it can't be a week of Meat Bun without all of this as well. So, it's fitting. So we are on page 261 for chapter 105, The Words I Couldn't Say. After Xie Ching-chung chased He Yu away, he took another shower. This time, what went on in the shower was a humiliating affair. Xie Ching-chung felt so terrible that he could barely keep himself upright. After struggling through washing himself, he took some fever-reducing medicine, fully intending to shut himself in his house and rest. But his bed was an utter mess. He couldn't sleep in it like this. Xie Ching-chung could only steel himself and change the sheets. He could barely even look at the stains on the old ones. Even now, he wasn't sure what kind of psychedelics he could have taken last night that led him to do such outrageous things with He Yu. He wasn't prone to embarrassment. Rather, he just found it extremely ridiculous, especially when he looked at the filthy bedsheets. He'd never thought two men could leave them in such a state. He must have been possessed. Coughing softly, Xie Ching-chung stripped the sheets and tossed them into the washing machine. Then, after making the bed with fresh linens, he buried his aching body under the blankets. He continued to cough. Xie Ching-chung tossed and turned, but the fever was unbearable, and he was in so much discomfort that he couldn't fall asleep. So you would have changed those sheets and bought him snacks. Yeah. His condition was beyond terrible. Thankfully, Xie Shui had left with Li Roqiu and had yet to return. Really hope, meanwhile, Xie Shui, I really hope nothing bad is happening to her, because that seems to tend to happen when she's just away for a long while. He didn't have to put up a facade for anyone. He could finally take off his mask, revealing a face made weak and dazed by the torment of sickness. It was a long time before the medicine finally took effect and reduced his fever. Perhaps it was because the room still smelled like Yu. But right before Xie Qingcheng hazily fell asleep, he seemed to see Yu's eyes from last night. Those eyes were filled with ardor and brimming with naked hunger, like he needed him, couldn't be apart from him. Then they were overcome with dazed passion. A stifling sensation choked Xie Qingcheng's heart. Immersed in this feeling, he felt his awareness slowly slip away. The medicine he'd taken had a sedative effect, so Xie Qingcheng ended up sleeping all the way through to the morning of the next day. Sensing that his fever had receded somewhat, he got out of bed, washed up, and dressed before reheating and eating some random leftover dumplings from the fridge. After bustling about like this for a while, Xie Qingcheng sat down and began to read. For Xie Qingcheng, reading was like watching jellyfish. They were both ways to divert his attention, to try to escape the disquiet in his heart. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Xie Qingcheng, who had finally, with great difficulty, managed to immerse himself in the world of books, resurfaced from his thoughts. "Who is it?" A youth's voice came quietly through the door. "It's me." Yu had the nerve to come back here again. The pen that Xie Qingcheng had been using to annotate stilled, its sharp tip stabbing through the page. He heard the youth say from outside, "Can you open the door?" A long pause. "I want to talk to you." "Stay where you are," said Xie Qingcheng. "Guh. Why did you lock the door?" "Because there are people like you who try to disturb me during work hours." The person beyond the door paused. "Xie Qingcheng, can't you open the door? Please open the door. I don't feel well in my heart." Things would have been fine if he hadn't said that, but the moment he did, Xie Qingcheng suddenly recalled the time Yu went crazy on him, panting into his ear as he told him, "I feel so hot. I'm burning up. It's like I've got heat stroke. Xie Qingcheng, I want you to cool me down." Xie Qingcheng's voice chilled another 8 degrees. "Stay there." Yu fell silent. After a while, Xie Qingcheng heard a shrill screech from the door, like nails on a chalkboard. Yu was scratching on the door like a cat, trying to piss him off. "Are you a child?" asked Xie Qingcheng. "I really don't feel well. I really want to see you. Has your fever gone down? I want to spend time with you. I want to talk with you." Xie Qingcheng couldn't be bothered to pay him any attention, so he switched on the speakers sitting on the table and turned his background music all the way up, drowning out the awful sound of Yu dragging his nails along the door. He continued reading like that for a while, and gradually, the sounds from outside stopped. Xie Qingcheng turned off the speakers and finished writing the section he was working on. When he reached the last page, he rose and went over to the counter to pour himself a cup of coffee. Then, checking the time, he surmised that Yu must have left. Thinking that he ought to go out and pick up some more medicine, he put away his books and went to open the door, only for a hand to suddenly shove it open. Xie Qingcheng was no pushover. With quick reflexes and ferocious strength, he slammed the door shut with a thud. But Yu was much crazier than him. Never mind his fingers. He didn't even blink as the heavy security door swung closed over where he was clutching at the door frame. Ow. There was a loud bang, and a red mark appeared where the door smashed into Yu's hand and broke the skin. Blood spurted from the wound a moment later. Yu didn't feel much pain from this. He looked through the crack in the door that he'd forced open, staring fixedly at Xie Qingcheng with his almond eyes. Then he slowly pressed the door open bit by bit, as if he were prying apart Xie Qingchung's shell. He stepped inside, grabbed Xie Qingchung by the collar with that bloodied hand, and locked his arms around him, pinning him against the wardrobe so forcefully that the boards shuddered and moaned. The impact tipped over an ugly, unused vase sitting on top of the wardrobe. It fell, smashing directly into He Yu's shoulder. Henry, this is weirdly hot. I don't like it. He Yu endured it without batting an eye, even as more blood started trickling from his shoulder. They bumped against the light switch as they tussled, turning off the incandescent bulb and plunging the room into murky darkness. Hi, Nina. Xie Qingcheng stared at those wolfish eyes, mere inches away in the dark, and said in a low voice, "You've lost your fucking mind. Didn't I tell you not to come back here?" He Yu's voice was very husky and soft. Do we drink to husky? Even though it's another series, I feel like I should drink to his voice being husky. Oh, and it also said that he had wolfish eyes. Accompanied by the sound of his breathing, it seemed to lodge itself into Xie Qingchung's chest the moment it left He Yu's throat. My heart's a mess. A second later, he repeated himself. Xie Qingchung, my heart's a mess. There's something I really want to talk to you about. But I have nothing to say to you. His words stabbed sharply into He Yu's heart. He Yu stared at Xie Qingchung's face. They were both panting slightly from exertion, their breaths mixing together. Xie Qingchung, get out. Instead of getting out, He Yu pressed their foreheads together, feeling Xie Qingchung's temperature for a while. You don't have a fever anymore. Did you take medicine? Xie Qingchung pushed him. Refusing to let go, He Yu murmured, Xie, I'm sorry. I thought about it for a long time. I thought about it all night yesterday. I really can't help it anymore. I want to tell you that I'm not interested. Please get out. That made He Yu feel even more helpless. After a moment of quiet, he finally seemed to give up seeking Xie Qingchung's acceptance. Then, I don't know why, I don't know where I saw then. There is no then. He searched the older man's face with his eyes, his dark pupils gradually focusing as they passed repeatedly over those thin lips. Then his throat bobbed. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Perhaps the beast in his heart named Love had bewitched him. Even though he knew that he shouldn't. He felt so terrible that he dissociated for a moment and lowered his head. Xie Qingchung abruptly turned his face away. But this position made the youth's searing lips press against his neck, where the skin was thin, fragile, and very sensitive to heat. After the way he'd been provoked on New Year's Eve, his reaction to He Yu's touch was obvious, especially with He Yu's lips pressed to a sensitive spot on his neck. He couldn't bear it, his fingers curling tight on the wardrobe as a silent shudder ran through him. He Yu looked up, watching him with pitch-black eyes. Guh. Don't chase me away. Can you let me stay for a little bit longer? Silence. I thought about a lot of things yesterday. Xie Qingchung still said nothing. I actually want to tell you. He Yu suddenly grabbed Xie Qingchung's wrist like he couldn't contain his emotions, as if he thought Xie Qingchung's touch could give him some encouragement. As He Yu restrained him, powerful, instinctive aggression stirred within Xie Qingchung. He snapped. Just what do you want to do, He Yu? He Yu had been wanting to say, I love you, Xie Qingchung. I realized that I really love you. But in that moment, as he looked into Xie Qingchung's eyes, filled with guarded reticence and not a trace of warmth, he didn't receive Xie Qingchung's encouragement, only his dismissal and mistrust. He suddenly couldn't get the words out. As if he had a fishbone lodged in his throat, he could only keep a tight grip on Xie Qingchung's wrist, refusing to let go. After standing there frozen for a while, he suddenly thought of a way to indirectly express his feelings. He gritted out a few shaky, forlorn words. Shiega, do you still remember those pictures? Those pictures from the club? It was the wrong choice of topic to bring up, I think. Xie Qingcheng blinked in surprise. After all that dawdling, this was what He Yu wanted to talk to him about? He couldn't help it. He flew into a rage. The plan you came up with after thinking all night was to threaten me with those pictures? Didn't I already say you can do whatever you want with those? Even if you send them to the anti-pornography office, I don't give a flying fuck. How would you still have the nerve to? I deleted them. The second half of Xie Qingcheng's rant petered out. He narrowed his eyes, at a loss for how to respond. Xie Qingcheng. He Yu controlled the tremor in his voice. I deleted those pictures. They've been completely destroyed. They're gone. Two pairs of eyes met as they faced off in the narrow space. As he gripped Xie Qingcheng's hand tightly, in that moment, an inexplicable fear gripped He Yu's heart. He was afraid that Xie Qingcheng would shoo him out, and then close the door in his face, never to open it again. He could only say, over and over again, I deleted them. No matter how he tried, he still couldn't say, I'm sorry, or I love you. Instead, I deleted them was like a piece of driftwood keeping his fragile self-regard afloat over the abyss, while also keeping Xie Qingcheng's gaze lingering upon him. Not a floating piece of driftwood. That just makes me think of Titanic again. But after a long beat of silence, Xie Qingcheng raised his other hand and forcibly pried He Yu's fingers, one by one, from around his slender wrist. Is that so? Xie Qingcheng said softly, his gaze falling on He Yu's youthful face from mere inches away. Do you want me to get down on my knees and weep in gratitude? When he'd pulled off his last finger, Xie Qingcheng flung He Yu's hand to the side. With a grim expression on his face, he retreated to beside the wardrobe, rubbing the red marks on his wrist. Ever since he took RN-13 to repair his body, his skin scarred and reddened easily, and He Yu had grabbed him hard enough to leave a mark. The area around his tattoo had developed a blush, a heart-rendingly lovely sight. Nothing like that will ever happen again, He Yu added. And what does that have to do with me? He Yu opened his mouth. His heart felt stifled, but his throat was too tight, and he actually didn't know what he should say. In the end, he could only take all of his emotions and pour them into that name. Xie Qingcheng. But Xie Qingcheng said, You should go. Xie Qingcheng, He Yu said in a low voice. The more he saw of him in this state, the less courage he had to say that sentence. Xie Qingcheng, I love you. He had less and less courage because he knew what Xie Qingcheng's reaction would be. He had already gotten a glimpse of it. Just what do you want to hear, He Yu? Xie Qingcheng looked at him. You've already caused such a huge scene. What more do you want? Fine. Thank you so much for being so compassionate as to finally delete those shameful pictures after you used them for so many revolting things. Please accept my gratitude on behalf of my entire family. I thank you sincerely from the very bottom of my heart. Now can you leave? He Yu didn't leave. There was a bitter taste at the back of his throat. But just as he was about to open his mouth to explain, footsteps sounded from a distance. Xie Qingcheng reacted more quickly than He Yu, turning at once to lift the blinds with a couple of fingers. When he caught sight of the person approaching, his expression immediately turned very ugly. It's Xie Xue. He Yu's expression also became quite colorful as he was suddenly yanked out of his lustful stupor, his newfound sobriety tinged with bewilderment. The sound of footsteps drew closer and closer. They could hear the click of a pair of high heels. Yu snapped out of it immediately. Instead of fussing over himself, he rushed to button the collar of Xie Qingchung's shirt that he'd just pulled into disarray. It was only then that he discovered that the buttons on Xie Qingchung's shirt were very difficult to close. Before he had time to button the top two, Xie Xue's silhouette had already passed by the window and reached the door. Guh, why is your door open? I just sent Li Roqiu to the train station. Why do you have the blinds drawn with the lights off? I guess that means Li Roqiu stayed in the hotel 2 nights. Because we're on, like, Xie Qingchung slept for, like, a whole day and woke up the next morning. But I guess Xie Xue is just coming back just now. She opened the door and walked in. Wait, did I read? Yeah, I just sent Li Roqiu to the train station. Why do you have the blinds drawn with the lights off? She opened the door and walked in. Yu and Xie Qingchung quickly pulled away from each other. Neither of them wanted her to find out about any of this. So even though their faces were ashen, their hair was a mess, 2 of Xie Qingchung's buttons remained undone, and Yu was still bleeding. They straightened up in perfect unison and pretended that nothing had happened. As soon as Xie Xue turned on the light and saw the sorry state of things, she froze in shock. Daga? Yu? She blinked in confusion. You guys. Her gaze swept over the mess, flitting between the 2 disheveled-looking men. What are you guys doing? In this embarrassing silence, Yu reacted before Xie Qingchung. Ahem. Since I stayed here for 2 days, I wanted to help clean up, but I wasn't careful enough and got hurt. Your Ge, he was taking care of it for me. I had to take my shirt off, so he shut the blinds. You need to turn on the light if you close the blinds, Xie Xue said, her gaze passing over Yu's bleeding shoulder and hand to land on the broken vase on the ground, her eyes instantly flying wide open. Isn't this the hand-sculpted vase I won a prize for in 6th grade? Oh God, what happened? Who broke it? It's because I'm not good at doing chores, Yu said. I didn't see it and I knocked it over. I'm sorry. You're not supposed to sweep on the 1st or 2nd day of the new year. You ignorant, out-of-touch young master. How do you not know this? And there's a footnote. According to superstition, cleaning at the beginning of the new year will sweep away all the good luck. Xie Xue was full of righteous fury. This was her favorite vase. Yu had only stayed in her house for a little while, and he broke it. He broke it. I'll get you another one. How can you get another one? How can you possibly manage that? Can you get 6th grade me to make a new one? I'm so mad. I'm so freaking mad. Xie Xue swore at length, but luckily, she was only upset about her vase. If she'd found out that her brother had been fucked by her student, she probably would have grabbed the cleaver from the kitchen, chopped Yu into mincemeat, and made dumplings out of him. It was truly a fortune amidst misfortunes that even if she had 100 times the brain power, Xie Xue would never have surmised that during the 2 days she stayed in the hotel with Li Roqiu, her family patriarch Da Ge had had multiple rounds of improper relations with Yu in this very apartment. Xie Xue hadn't finished berating him. Yu, you son of a bitch, just what are you trying to do? You cursed him out so viciously before, yet now you're depending on his care? You are inexplicable. She kept venting as if she had the lung capacity of an entire choir put together, unleashing a lengthy torrent of curses at Yu. He let her go as she pleased and didn't try to talk back. He let her go on as she pleased and didn't try to talk back, but toward the end of her haranguing, even Xie Qingchung could barely bear to keep listening. Could hardly bear to keep listening. I can read. I can do that. Forget it, Xie Xue. That's enough. He finally cut in. He's about to leave. He shot Yu a look. But Xie Xue began. Xie Qingchung put a hand on Xie Xue's shoulder and shook his head. Xie Xue finally shut her mouth, even though it looked like she still wanted to take out all her anger at Li Ruoqiu on He Yu. What was with all these people who thought they could right their wrongs after the fact? Could a broken pot be restored to its original state? I see. I see what she's really mad about in this situation. And I'm still surprised that she spent, like, an extra day with Li Ruoqiu. I'm like, did she have to? I don't think she had to do that. Xie Qingcheng didn't want to hear any more of these arguments. He closed the last two buttons on his collar in a seemingly absent-minded fashion and said to He Yu, "If there's nothing else, you should go home." He Yu didn't move. Xie Qingcheng, Xie Qingcheng looked at him coldly, his gaze full of warning. Leave. After that order, there was no way He Yu could stay, much less confess his feelings. No matter what a mess his heart was, he had to process it on his own. He bit his lower lip in silence. He was well aware that to Xie Qingcheng, the fact that he loved him was a burden, not worth saying out loud. Xie Qingcheng wouldn't accept him. He didn't even want to see him again. Well, I can say pretty confidently that they're definitely still misunderstanding each other in really big ways, because Xie Qingcheng could never have expected that that's what He Yu was going to say. And if he did say I love you to him, I don't know how he would have responded, but I don't think he would have taken it as a burden. And I think he's embarrassed and he's trying to, like, suppress himself again. But I don't think he's like, oh, I just don't want to see He Yu anymore. Blue, it's okay. It would have happened anyway. It's literally how she wrote it. So wait, let me check something. I think we have one more chapter for today. Yep, we are on page 273 for chapter 106, which is called I Watched Your Silhouette. He Yu left. After that, he didn't show himself in front of Xie Qingcheng again for a long time, but he took many car trips to watch him from afar. He rested his chin on the steering wheel, his almond eyes staring straight ahead to watch Xie Qingcheng walking out of snowy Moyu Alley at daybreak and returning home at twilight, his figure tall and broad, yet growing thinner by the day. He didn't bother him again. Xie Qingcheng had expressed his views very clearly. He didn't have the patience for He Yu's pestering. Before He Yu realized that he loved him, he hadn't cared too much about Xie Qingcheng's feelings. When he reached his epiphany, he'd wanted to confess on a moment's impulse, but he was met with Xie Qingcheng's cold rejection before the words left his mouth. He Yu's heart had tangled into a hopeless knot, and there was no way he could manage to say, I like you, out loud. He understood very clearly that if he ran over to Xie Qingcheng and said, Sorry, Ge, I realize that I have feelings for you, so can we start over from the beginning? Xie Qingcheng would definitely slap him in the face, then tell He Yu to get the fuck out of his sight. And at this point, he no longer had the ability to coerce Xie Qingcheng anymore. The fangs on his face were now made out of frosting, and the claws on his body had become feeble and powerless. He Yu felt alarmed at this version of himself. He didn't think he should possess such a weak emotion. He shouldn't be weak, nor should he like Xie Qingcheng. And that was to say nothing of the promise he'd made. He'd given his word to this person who'd already endured too much, to stop nagging him, to stop forcing him, to stop hooking up with him, to end their relationship. This was the only way he could take care of things. Things would be better for both of them this way. One day, Xie Qingcheng took a detour on his way home from getting groceries to order a cake from a nearby shop. The cake shop was very close to where He Yu had parked, so He Yu didn't get a chance to leave. He heard Xie Qingcheng speaking to the shop employee, his voice floating faintly over. Oh dear. Yes, I'd like a happy 50th birthday sign. Could I have a look at the different types of cakes? It was probably for a neighborhood auntie or uncle's birthday, He Yu figured. He watched Xie Qingcheng flip attentively through the booklet the employee handed over, feeling faintly envious of the person who would be receiving this cake. He even decided over the brief course of these few minutes that after Xie Qingcheng left, he would go into the shop and ask the worker to sell him the exact same cake. And then he'd bring it home and eat it by himself. Being a little lonely was no big deal. But before this highly dignified plan had time to flourish, Xie Qingcheng finished ordering and suddenly turned around. With a sidelong glance of his peach blossom eyes, he looked right at He Yu's car and the person inside it. I will say He Yu does have a pretty conspicuous car and does not help in these kind of situations. They stared at each other through the windshield. Oh, never mind. Meat Bun says you're wrong. You spoke too soon. In truth, He Yu was being very low-key. He hadn't been driving any of his family's luxury cars. He'd purchased a commonplace BMW SUV for this very purpose. It had a tall chassis, giving him a great vantage point, and it didn't attract attention. I'm so... I can't... Meat Bun is like, I heard you speak. But then he'd gone and bumped straight into Xie Qingcheng. He Yu didn't even know how he was supposed to face him right now. He couldn't say that he liked him, and he'd agreed not to bother him. With no way of expressing his current mood to Xie Qingcheng, he had to just sit there as the older man strode over with a grim expression and rapped his knuckles against the window. He Yu kept one hand on the steering wheel, his head pillowed on his arm, as he used his other hand to lower the window. He had almost driven himself mad, but he still smiled and pretended nothing was wrong. What you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? What are you doing here? He Yu lowered his lashes and thought for a while, but he couldn't come up with an excuse. In the end, he ignored the question. You bought so many things. Why don't I help you carry them home? Xie Qingcheng pressed his hand against the door of He Yu's car to prevent him from coming out. On the other side of the open window, he said very coldly, Didn't you say that you wouldn't bother me again? He Yu discovered that he didn't even have the right to explain himself anymore. Liking someone when they accepted your feelings could indeed be called liking them. When they didn't accept them, it was just harboring a secret crush. You know, I don't know if you can call it a secret crush at this point. I don't know what you call it, but I don't think it's that. And when they would never, ever accept them, the word for that was either behaving despicably or harassing. Yes. He's Henry. He's so close and yet so far from being a respectful boyfriend. He Yu had a very strong sense of self-regard. Now that he'd come back to his senses, he had no plans to let Xie Qingcheng know about his feelings just to watch him express his shock, loathing, contempt, and disdain. That would hurt too much. The pain would drive him mad, and the madness would make him lose control. In the end, both of them would be hurt, and both of their lives and their illnesses would suffer for it. Therefore, He Yu only flashed him one of his usual sneers, one that was even somewhat haughtily distant. You misunderstood. I was only just passing by. Then you can go home now. He Yu wanted to say, How'd you get even thinner lately? Is there something you've been keeping to yourself and dealing with on your own? But then he remembered that he couldn't like Xie Qingcheng. Therefore, he took the love that he'd just discovered and wrapped it up in the ugliest paper he could find, so that it was just as sinister and unsightly as before, so that no one would discover it. This road isn't your house, he said. The police haven't given me a ticket and told me to leave. You should be a bit more reasonable. You're an eyesore. Yu felt like he'd been stabbed in the heart, but he expressionlessly wiped off the blood. There was a secret coppery taste in his throat, but the corners of his mouth curved into a careless, roguish smile. Xie Ching Chung, the last time you slept with me, you didn't think I was an eyesore. You kissed me and rode me. You even... Xie Ching Chung shoved He Yu's head back inside the car from where he'd propped it against the window, using so much force it actually hurt He Yu. You're not allowed to mention that night to me again, he snapped. He Yu skirted around the topic to obscure the shift in his attitude, but he still made sure that Xie Ching Chung wouldn't feel too uncomfortable. Oh, all right then. I won't say any more. Before he drove away, he looked at the bags in Xie Ching Chung's hands. One of them was printed with the name of a nearby pharmacy. He Yu already had his foot on the brake and a hand on the wheel, but in the end, he couldn't help asking, Xie Ching Chung, are you sick? Xie Ching Chung followed his gaze to the plastic bag from the pharmacy. I'm not. He furrowed his brow as he spoke, and his lips moved slightly, almost as if he wanted to tell He Yu something else. But in the end, he didn't continue. Great. Cool. Awesome. If there's anything you need help with, just let me know, He Yu replied. A single day as a husband and wife is worth 100 days of kindness, after all. Husband and wife my ass. Scram. He Yu smiled and drove away just as he was told. After he turned around and drove far enough that Xie Ching Chung couldn't see his face anymore, that shallow, feigned smile fell away like snow. He gripped the steering wheel and slowly made his way into the distance, his knuckles turning white, unable to hold back the pain in his heart any longer as it spread like cracks through china. When he got home, He Yu couldn't keep his mask on a moment longer. He rummaged through a pile of pills. Disregarding Anthony's advice, he swallowed them all. God, I had forgotten about that guy. At least they could quell the violent turbulence of his emotions. Is Chenmon sick? Are you asking because we haven't seen Chenmon in a while? Oh, because what if he's buying medication for Chenmon? Oh, right. Okay, of course. That would make sense, except that it has been pointed out that Xie Ching Chung is getting skinnier, so I think he's sick and he doesn't want to say anything. But it could also, I don't know, it could also be that. Double whammy. At least they could quell the violent turbulence of his emotions. Then he lay down on the bed and spent a long time collecting himself. Out of habit, he tried to pull up the pictures he'd taken at the club to comfort himself. But as soon as he opened the album, he realized that he'd already destroyed them. They were gone. All that was left was a picture of Xie Ching Chung's side profile that he'd found on the internet. It was a beautiful photo. The glow from the streetlight wreathed Xie Ching Chung's face in a brilliant halo of gold. He Yu looked at his handsome profile again and again. Finally, he couldn't help bringing his phone to his lips and softly kissing the image of Xie Ching Chung's face. Only the man in the picture wouldn't treat him so coldly. In the midst of this self-consolation, He Yu began to feel something like grief. He needed to let it out. He wanted to talk to someone. People always wanted to let others know about their unrequited love, as love was something that couldn't stay hidden. Even a lunatic was no different. It was too bad that He Yu didn't have any friends he could sincerely confide in. He ended up just logging on to his Weibo side account to confess his secrets, spilling his innermost thoughts into a virtual tree hollow. I'm just trying to imagine what He Yu's secret Weibo account looks like. Yeah, Blue, please don't go talk to your mom or fucking Anthony. See, and Anthony... I forget Anthony basically told him to stay away from Xie Ching-chung, right? I forget if he told him explicitly to stay away from Xie Ching-chung, but when he was doing all that stuff with like his, what do you see in your dream, or like the hypnotism or whatever, I think he told him to stay away from the thing that was tormenting him. So I wonder if Hoyu will have the sense to not talk to Anthony about this. Okay. He used this account to record his everyday thoughts and moods, and he had already made plenty of posts at irregular intervals. However, he had never written much before. Most of his posts were just photos that had some special meaning to him, along with simple captions. For example, there was one of the first rays of morning light. He'd written, "The dawn is endlessly wonderful." As another example, he'd posted a jellyfish video and written, "My heart will go on." The most recent one was a nightscape photograph taken near Moyu Alley. The caption for that one was, "The moon is so beautiful tonight." The longer Hoyu swiped through his posts, the worse he felt. So he went to a forum for discussing relationships to look for some content that could make him feel better. But the content he found was all like this: calling out a shameless scumbag dude who just wanted to get into my pants. Too bad Xie Ching-chung doesn't even want to get into my pants, Hoyu thought. Are you sure about that, Hoyu? I still miss him a year after we broke up. What should I do? You were just lucky that you got to be together. Saying that you broke up is just showing off that you had him once. My wife goes 3 rounds a night. Is that too much? Hoyu went ahead and replied, "You're worthless." Hoyu read these posts thoughtfully, but in the end, he felt that none of these people's experiences were valuable as references. Therefore, he decided to compose his own post. After all, there was no harm in listening to other people's advice sometimes. So Hoyu wrote, "Dear Tree Hollow." Hold on, there's a dog that wants my attention right now. "Dear Tree Hollow, there's this man I like. He's 13 years older than me, but he looks very young. And I don't care about the age gap. I don't even care about the fact that he's a divorcee with a chauvinistic personality. Even though we've never acknowledged any romantic relationship between us, and we don't even count as friends with benefits, we've slept together many times. Eventually, I discovered that I have feelings for him, but he thinks I should stay as far away from him as possible. The last time we had sex, he was the one who took the initiative, and I know he enjoyed it, but after we finished, he immediately wanted me to disappear. I get upset whenever I see him now, but I still have to pretend like I don't care. I'm so tired. I don't know how I can make myself feel better." This is immediately making me think of, like, when there's, like, a meme, and it's, like, so-and-so Danmei character, and, like, what they would say on social media. This is that meme, except it's just, like, happening in real life in the story. Henry mistreated over here. And yeah, Blue, I feel you. I'm so nervous about him doing this online where anyone can find his posts. Like, yeah, there were a couple details in there were kind of specific. This forum was very active, so the replies rolled in quickly. "Sis, you've met a scumbag, you'd better run." He enjoys it while you're doing it, and after he's finished, he tells you to disappear. What a prime specimen of a scumbag. A garbage man deserves to be with a trashy woman. What else can I say other than respect yourself, best wishes, and lock it down? I wish you two weirdos a lifetime of happiness together. Just don't die on my doorstep. Oh my god. Darling, it's seriously not worth it. You should cut your losses. When you're dealing with a man this utterly worthless, it's always going to be us women who are patient in the beginning and get hurt in the end. I was once as rash and persistent as you are, but I ended up wasting the best years of my youth. Ah, I can't bear to look back on the past. Mei Mei, listen to your Jia's advice. There are plenty of men in the world, and you're still young. You need to learn how to love yourself. Think of your parents. They wouldn't want you to ruin your life in the hands of a man who's on his second marriage. You're still young, aren't you? Are you really willing to be his young mistress? What's more, this man seems very unreasonable. Even if you become his concubine, he's not going to dote on you. Women must love themselves. Remember this. I love this because of how much it's like when you go to Reddit and there's like a relationship post, and I will say sometimes people are correct, but sometimes people will just make like the biggest leaps in assumptions, and it's always like throw out the whole man, and like that's like that's like the default response. Most of the time I agree, but sometimes it's like, can y'all read? The, Sister, you can't be with this man. He's gaslighting you. I'm guessing he's the type who tells you just the tip. His behavior clearly shows that he's a dickwad who doesn't see women as people. 2 words, dump him. I can tell you for sure that if you got pregnant, he wouldn't even give you the money for an abortion. 13 years apart? How old are you? He can't be very young anymore. Can he satisfy you? He's a divorced chauvinist after all. Does he have kids? Are you willing to be his little mistress? His kid's little stepmother? You better think it over very carefully, silly girl. Silly girl. How come even this kind of man can get a girlfriend, but I can't? I'm crying, boo-hoo. We're strong, independent women, sister. Men are just our playthings. Don't take it too seriously. I feel like He Yu is about to get offended on Xie Qingchung's behalf. Yeah, Blue, it's always like this, and then OP gives more info in the comments, and it turns out that they or everybody suck. Yeah, so many times it's like, oh, both those people suck. He Yu stared at his phone in disbelief. Did he really sound that much like a troubled teenage girl? And Xie Qingchung wasn't a scumbag, okay? He Yu blocked each and every one of these people. Finally, after giving it a bit of thought, he wrote below his own post, I'm blocking everyone who calls him a scumbag. Take care. Several seconds later, girl, you're hopeless. There's no saving you from this gaslighting asshole. He Yu's jaw dropped. Forget it. Time to sleep. And there is a scene break. A few days later, the new semester began. It was the second semester of He Yu's first year, and just as before, Xie Shui was one of his teachers. Yeah, that's gonna be awkward. He figured that if he couldn't see Xie Qingchung, then seeing Xie Shui would be good too. At the very least, Xie Shui's eyes looked like her brother's, so looking at them could make him a bit happier. They would certainly make him happier than the replies he received on that forum. But when he walked into the classroom on the first day of the new semester, the person He Yu saw behind the lectern wasn't Xie Shui, but rather a pudgy old professor in a pair of horn-rimmed glasses. Due to health reasons, Xie Shui Laoshe is temporarily unable to teach her classes. I will lead this class for the time being. My surname is Zhang. Blue, were you right about the medication and you were just wrong about who it was for? Oh no. Oh no, this is not a plotline I was expecting. Sitting in the last row of the classroom, He Yu suddenly remembered that when he ran into Xie Qingchung at the entrance of Mo Yu Alley, Xie Qingchung had been carrying a plastic bag from the pharmacy. At the time, he looked like he wanted to say something, but then he stopped himself. He Yu suddenly understood. After class, He Yu called Xie Shui, but no one answered. He called Xie Qingchung instead. Xie Qingchung hung up the first time, but he must have been annoyed enough to actually pick up the second time. What is it? His voice was very cold. He Yu didn't beat around the bush. Is Xie Shui sick? No reply. She didn't come to class today. Xie Qingchung seemed to know that he wouldn't be able to hide it from him. There was a long stretch of silence on the other end of the call. Finally, Xie Qingcheng heaved a sigh. Fine. When you get a chance, stop by Moyu Alley sometime. I'll tell you in person. That's... Well, Xie Qingcheng is a very, like, serious person. So I can understand him being like, I want to tell someone something in person. But that's interesting because he actually invited He Yu to come over. Like, he's actually willing to do that, to tell him this. But also, oh god, He Yu technically had 2 elective classes that night, but he decided to skip them. He drove over to Moyu Alley as soon as his regular classes ended. As soon as he walked in, He Yu saw Xie Qingcheng sitting inside, smoking a cigarette. He was alone in the house. Where's Xie Xue? In the hospital. Why so suddenly? He Yu asked, startled. What happened? Which hospital? A private hospital established by Qin Xian and a friend of his. I feel more at ease with her there. Xie Qingcheng's fingers curled as he lit a cigarette. Sit down. Seeing as Xie Qingcheng still didn't want to have anything to do with him, he must have had a good reason for calling him over here. As expected, Xie Qingcheng didn't intend to make small talk with He Yu. After a pause, he cut to the chase. Xie Xue shows signs of having taken RN13. What? Meat bun? Hello? What? He Yu started in surprise. That was the last thing he expected to hear. But he also immediately understood why Xie Qingcheng would want to tell him about this. Other than He Yu, there was nobody else Xie Qingcheng could talk to about that forbidden drug. Blue, I don't want to sound like I'm lying, but I did have that thought earlier when we saw her because of her anger. Oh, no, that makes sense. Because maybe that's not her typical behavior, I guess. Um, Not really. But how did she... I have questions. As a victim of RN13, He Yu felt his expression twist. He didn't have any romantic feelings toward Xie Xue anymore, and their relationship was even at a deadlock of sorts. But she was ultimately still a friend who had given him a great deal of comfort in his most difficult times. How is she doing now? He asked gravely. Is it serious? She's all right. Her condition is still under control. He Yu let out a small sigh of relief, but the frown didn't leave his face. Have you found out what happened? I have some idea. Xie Qingcheng had already finished his cigarette. He coughed softly, then reached for another one. But before his fingers touched the box, He Yu took it away. No, said He Yu, don't smoke. I hate secondhand smoke. Xie Qingcheng didn't have the energy to bicker with him over this. He grabbed a handful of his own hair and closed his eyes. According to the lab results, she came in contact with the drug last fall, he said after a moment. I asked her about it in the hospital, and she confirmed that she had started to experience some physical symptoms back then. She couldn't sleep, and she had nosebleeds. He Yu's heart stuttered. He remembered seeing Xie Xue get a nosebleed at school before. They'd even had a conversation about it. He'd suggested that Xie Xue get checked at a hospital, or tell Xie Qingcheng about it. But Xie Xue thought it wasn't a big deal and that Xie Qingcheng was too busy to be disturbed. She never told you? He Yu asked. Xie Qingcheng lowered his lashes, wearily bringing a hand to his brow. No, I only found out a few weeks ago. When I came home one day, I found her unconscious on the floor. There were some bloody tissues nearby, and blood stains around her nose and mouth. I immediately brought her to Huzhou First Hospital, and your cousin did her examination, but nothing came up on the regular blood tests. Then what happened? Afterward, I recalled some of the side effects from the first time I took RN13. I also had nosebleeds and delirium. At this point, Xie Qingcheng glanced up at He Yu. You're different. Your illness was inherited, so you don't know about these early symptoms. But I took Xie Shui to the hospital run by Qin Xian's friend for a special examination. These are the lab results. Xie Qingcheng took a sheet of paper from a drawer and pushed it over to He Yu. On that snow-white paper was written Xie Shui's name, positive for RN13. He Yu was silent for a long time. So who dosed her with it? He asked at last. It was a very small dose. Xie Qingcheng didn't immediately tell him who it was, choosing to tell He Yu about Xie Shui's condition first. His voice sounded as if it were floating slowly up through the water, cool and heavy. With current advancements, it should be possible to prevent permanent damage to her health from a dose of that size. I've put her on a course of medication since I found out, but... Xie Qingcheng leaned back against the sofa and closed his eyes. Our special medicine was developed from the chemical structure given by that American research lab, the one Qin Xian connected with in the beginning. The medication you and I take is the same type. It's effective on both of our bodies. So you could see where this is going. Does it not work on Xie Shui? No, Xie Qingcheng said. It can ease the symptoms, but it doesn't show obvious curative properties. That's because she took a new version of the drug. There was a long silence. Someone's developing a new version of RN13? He Yu asked. Xie Qingcheng nodded his head in abject weariness. But RN13 research has to be done underground. It's illegal. Even if someone were conducting secret experiments, Xie Shui is just a teacher. How would she chance upon something like this? Xie Qingcheng fiddled with his lighter. There was a chance. Think back to last autumn. You remember what happened to her. That's the end of the chapter. That's where we wrap up today. Where is my bookmark? Yes, Blue, what you just said, and she had a rich boyfriend who was shipped away. It has something to do with Wei Dongheng. It's the boyfriend. Or it's the asylum. But I feel like, well, okay, maybe this, okay. The asylum probably makes more sense. My brain immediately was like, the boyfriend is doing something. He's got something to do with this. He's still suspicious in my eyes. Oh my god. Okay. Well, this has been one of the craziest weeks of Case File. I mean, one, I did 3 Case File streams this week. But even if I just count this one and the previous one, it's been like the craziest Case File stream. Craziest Case File week that I can think of. And a lot of things have happened. Blue. Am I insane, or did the old woman in a wheelchair on the island mention the boyfriend? I don't... Wait, did she? Did they mention Wei Dongheng and I forgot about it? I thought she mentioned the film director, Zhuang something, or Zhang something. And they talked about First Emperor. Did they bring up Wei Dongheng? I don't know. So much has happened. I don't know. Yeah. So, when we come back on Monday, we will be on chapter 107, which is called I Helped You Investigate. So, this is what happens. They get together, they have a falling out, and then something necessitates them investigating things again, and then they get back together because of that. Yeah. This is... Goodness. My head is empty now. Like... And now I'm... Blue, you were predicting what if this volume ends in Xie Shui dying? I sure hope that doesn't happen, but it's Meat Bun, so if it's not the main character, anybody's fair game, I guess. So yeah. Uh, thank y'all for coming today. Um, I've got to go. I will see you on Monday, and I will just be processing this the whole time. Bye.